Welcome to the channel, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys a high-level overview of how to use GoHighLevel's V2 API auth endpoints. And so I'm using Node-RED to build in flows that do three things. One of the flows generates a code, then uses that code to get the tokens like the refresh token, the access token, company ID, and everything that GoHighLevel returns in response, saves them into a Postgres database. And the third option or the third flow, a webhook that you provide a location ID and it just returns the information that was stored previously in the database. Of course, you can, with any programming languages, platforms, you can combine and do whatever you like it to do that satisfies your workflow. So the first few things that I will do is start the Node-RED server. So I'm going to go into that project, then using Pixie, I will activate the shell, and then simply I'm going to start the Node-RED server, and from here I will then, and the reason that I moved the console window is because I've set it to display more information so I can investigate when I'm debugging. So right now I'll go to the Node server I have is on my local server. So I'll go HTTPS localhost, and then port is 1880. Now, the first time I come here, I need to provide my password, but after that, then it remembers, so I don't have to do it constantly. I am giving the password right now. Here, username, log in. This flow, the auth GHL complete, is the one where we, after the local port 1880, and of course you can use Cloudflare if you're running this from your own computer and you want to expose it outside the world. You can use Cloudflare's Tunnel, ngrok. I'm sure there's a lot more options to be able to do that, or use a server from one of the three major providers, AWS, Google, or Azure, and of course there's many more that provide you with a server that's somewhere else that you can use, and then attach a domain name to it, to the IP address, so you can use SS certificates so that your connection to and from is secure. Now what I'm going to do here is this endpoint auth GHL complete. Now in the console here in the networks, it's not going to, well here I'll show you what I mean. Enter host port, okay, and now of course I could change this to whatever I want and choose. So you could do multiple depth, like auth complete, something else, and you can make this dynamic, and then we're saying, hey, expect location ID. Right now, I'll just keep it at that path, but because it's hosting it's my webhook endpoint, I can change it to whatever I choose and want to. Just make sure that it's not that path is not being used in the other flows. So if I do auth-g check complete, and I'm going to now enter in one of my sub-accounts, and of course this will work. This process that I've set up works with all of your sub-accounts. You can't use this process on other agency accounts, but your own account, and your other applications can, if you're using Postman to test, or there's literally hundreds of tools to make posts and get requests, and this method I can change it to whatever, but if I set this to post in it, I just simply can go into the browser and enter, because most of the browsers, they're set up for get requests, giving the information. Here, right now, you're not going to see much here, and I want to only listen for, there we go, yeah, GHL information. But what has happened in the background, because I'm not returning anything, is let's go here, it was listening for so this endpoint, wherever you're serving it, it's listening for this path with what we're terming the location ID, and then afterwards, so what the keys, it's really important that you have to do the first time is constructing your URL, and then when you open up the dev console, you need to copy the headers, because without this, then you cannot automate the process of automatically generating the code for any of your sub accounts, and then you need that code, of course, to use for your whatever you want to do, whatever the scopes that you have provided to the app. Okay, and yeah, then so this, as you can see here, if I come in here, I'm giving the client ID dynamically, location, redirect, scopes, user, all that stuff. What's really cool is so here where you see auth, authorize, question mark, use this so you don't have to go in. Now, of course, initially what I mentioned here in the headers area, you have to do this first time. That's a manual thing that you have to. Now, there are ways where you can use browserless technology to automate this. Now, that's not necessary, just because this does not change that much. It hasn't changed. In this particular situation, I've been testing it for 2 to 3 weeks. That it has not changed. And this, on other systems like the Xano that have built similar processes, I've used a base64 token as opposed to the header information, and that has not. Hopefully, GoHighLevel provide updates their system so we can't use this workaround, because if someone has access to that, they effectively control your account. But that's why I'm not going to share this. This is a shout out to whoever's watching this. They have a GoHighLevel Pro account that's used strictly for testing. There's no real data in there that could be maliciously used by others. Unfortunately, there are individuals who do bad stuff, and so therefore I can't show you that information. But if you're watching this and you're interested, and you have that account that you use for strictly testing purposes, reach out and we can do a full-blown step-by-step showing everything in detail. So I'm going to cancel this out and just deploy that again. Okay, Now, so this flow, what it's going to do, so when I run this right here, so this is, so I'm calling this given code, right? Again, you can name it whatever your heart desires. Now what this is going to do is it returns here in the, let me look at it. Oh yes, I forgot to turn on the database. So that's, okay, so I'm going to, let me open it up. Yeah, so here I'm using Brew for the Postgres SQL. So I'm going to start that service. Brew services, and then it's SQL at 16. Alright, so now we'll be able to hopefully do it. Okay, network here. Let me see if I can get this. Let me given code. Ah, and here it's expecting a location ID, which is right here. And we'll see what happened. Oh, okay, that was, I'm going to use Firefox. There we go. So again, I had previously logged in using Firefox, so that's why I didn't request a password. Okay. Oh, here's Firefox, and again, localhost, port, given code, and then one of my sub-accounts. And if I regenerate, you'll see it all, the code is changed. So this would be useful if you want to provide the code to others, that they can then use it to get a GHL token. Now, going into this next, so here is the get code flow, and the response, the reason that we're seeing that response here is because so there's the webhook request and HTTPN, and here is the response to that. Deploy, always good. Okay. Let's check out, now get the tokens. And essentially, this flow, what it does is that when you or yourself, others programmatically hit your endpoint, get GHL tokens. In my situation, again, you can name it whatever you like. What it is going to do is provide us, so here, port, and get GHL tokens, and then the sub-account. Here is all this info that GoHighLevel provides in its return, and just to test that, so this is not going to generate a new refresh token because it's simply getting it based on the location ID. If I wanted to get, okay, if I wanted to have, if I do this again, it's gonna, and yeah, right here. So if I wanted to update this, then if I want to generate a new refresh token, in this flow I would need to hit this endpoint, auth GHL complete, which was, okay, so let me do auth GHL complete, and then / and then the and this, doing this manually, but of course this all is automated. It can be like, it can be automated whatever platform that you're using. So now, and again, hitting this endpoint like we said here, it's not returning anything, it's just everything is happening in the background. So for example, so if I show, check this out, okay. So if I hit enter and refresh, and let me, so here, so these are debug nodes, so I'm going to just turn this on, and then turn this on, and deploy it, okay, and go back to here. In fact, let me cut this out, and close that, and then do plus. You'll see that we got the redirect URL here. Here's the code that's here that's brought to us, and then we're using that code to then have a payload of the access token and so forth. So this will change. Let me, here, I'll keep it up just to show you that it did update. Finding, here it is. We'll do it again, and here is, see it, so this is because I activated this complete flow. What happened is we got a new code right here. So this ends in F, 4F, and if I come here, it was CAC before. And let's look at the initial access token. It's UMA, and here it's DBU. And of course, this is being saved in the database. And to show what's happening is now the get GHL. So now if we're hitting hey get GHL, and then we refresh, and yeah, so here you can see, here, let me collapse these. Okay, so if I do this again, it's going to be the same thing. S, okay, so it's SABU, okay? So the latest, what we did, yeah, we're right here. So from the Postgres to database, what we get is, and this is looking for, I've set up the SQL query to focus on the location ID, so that if a location ID exists, it just updates it. If not, it creates it. And you can see that the access token ends in SBU right here. The same thing that we are getting the response right here, SBU. Now, I know an individual wanted to know, how can we change this endpoint, right? Let's change this to, instead of get, let's use getting, right? And we need to deploy, and I'm going to erase everything and update this, because if I enter this, nothing's going to happen, right? Because now it's expecting, yeah, here it is, SBBU. However, these tokens, now previously, as you can see, I had mini flows, right? I had it set up where, besides this flow where it just generates a code, uses it to get the tokens, I had it set up that every time you wanted to get the code, the access token, making sure they were valid, we would generate a code. So there's many ways to go about this, and different ways to set it up that essentially automates the generation of the code. When a code is generated and it's used and it fails or succeeds, it doesn't really matter. That code does not work again. And so if you have static programs that requires an access token, the available without changing for a long time, you could use this approach. But me, and there might be some individuals that have a different perspective, but hey, if you can generate every single time, generate new code, generate new access and refresh tokens, and the scopes of it, and then I think that's more security or better security, because it's always changing. But at the same time, your information is saved in a database, and of course you can choose a database if you're choosing. You can set it up locally or on the cloud, but since it's just a test environment, I'm using Postgres SQL here, and then here CRUD. I need to now, by no means a database expert, but just use basics of what you need to get done. So I'm going to test. So we're saying here we run all the columns from our table called OAuth, we'll just where. Now here in the node-RED, you can, whatever location ID is passed, you can dynamically get that, and then it checks. But we'll just say where, and where location ID. It could be ID, capital I, lowercase I, it doesn't make a difference. And I will just enter in. So I only want to get that, and then hit where. So you see here, so I got the access token, refresh token, user type, company ID, location ID. Now if I just do this, then you can see, let's see, I ran this query where, because I was testing, had no values in here. So I said, hey, where location ID is not null. And as you can see, it is, so I have a few location IDs here, as they're all different, and these will get updated every single time that we use them. For example, let's try another location ID, and we were using JYO here, so I'm going to use this one. And the refresh token, if you look at here, if we scroll all the way down, so that is VAUS. Okay, I'm going to remove this. Okay, and cancel, and then hit that, and if we come to, so it's TOT0W, and if I do it again and rerun the query, it's UGY. So as you can see, it's updating the database, and it is working nice and dandy. So the platform that I'm using, Node-RED, I'm learning still. I'm still learning, but the capabilities, a long time ago, I tried N, but they had some weird licensing where you're in the end to use their cloud service, and for business sake, you really, at that point, do you really care about open source, or do you just want to use NAN because it works? And I believe that Node-RED is more of an open source. Now there's companies that are built on top that provide additional capabilities. So the underlying engine, i.e. Node-RED, is open source, but then they build proprietary systems on top of it. They do add benefits and value. One of the ones that I've tried that I was really impressed was called Flow Fuse. And for a production environment that money is at stake and real business needs to happen, you could use those companies that built their solutions on top of Node-RED, or you can just use Node-RED standalone if you feel comfortable with running up a server, security, that authentication, and there's a lot more that goes in that they provide out of the box. So it just all depends. This is a no-cost solution. Again, if you have a computer you can dedicate to your own, like at home, at the office, and use ngrok, clock for tunnel in either public traffic, and folks that you grant access to can retrieve information what they would like. To finally top it off, so now, okay, what's the point of these tokens? The axe token, refresh token, those scopes, all that stuff. When we have that information, then we can use the develop GoHighLevel's version 2 APIs. If I go to, I think it's GoHighLevel.subla.io, you can get here from developer, it's cloud, develop. Also, I would trust, this is GoHighLevel's official developer site, and you have access to the marketplace, communities, which leads you to the developer council Slack channel, documentation. Do not use the version 1 docs. They will be deprecated the month of June, so we're almost at the end of January, so in the next 2 months these are not going to be maintained, worked on, so if they break somehow, you don't have access. The agency owner, we do not have access to GoHighLevel's internal code to make fix. So start using API version 2 docs that requires an OAuth, and as you saw how easy it was to get the code, to use that code to grab the tokens. And so here, if I click right here, it'll take me to the same thing, highlevel.subla.io. Yeah, you can either go there directly and then just click on Integrations API. And now let's test this out. Just to test it out, I think the scopes that I had was, so we'll try to get the location, custom values, read-only, and so I'm gonna look, there we go. And so yeah, this was about a stoplight that recently got purchased, Swagger, but of course Swagger was purchased by another company. It is Bears something, but they're still retaining their stoplight branding here. Okay, we want to read only, so it's going to be the get custom. Let's see. Okay, so we need to pass in location ID and custom values, right? Now, really quickly, we can test this out. And before I do that, I want to make sure I just get, okay, VO. Okay, so let's run that so we know that we just generated new tokens. And then remove that. Okay, so now we're gonna get new tokens. Okay, so here, yeah, for some odd reason, like in your actual code, you don't need this. As you can see, the headers only is the authorization, and you put bears in that token in the version. But for some reason, they either GoHighLevel themselves or stoplight.io request the access token twice. Now we're gonna put it in here, and then location ID. Okay, the version is 2128. That's the only one, and let's send it to the live server and see what happens. So I guess that location. All right, let me try different account, and we will see. So where is our, there we go. So I'm going to use this. First we want to make sure we have updated tokens. Good. Then we'll do that again. Okay. And then the location. There we go. Now we got the custom values. There they are, all of them. And then of course if we wanted to, because the scopes have access to location custom values, we can post, write more information. And to know what these scopes offer, you might want to say, can we update it? Can we delete it? And then here, GoHighLevel makes it really easy through stoplight.io. And if I search for location, there we go. Location, right? Wait, is that, make sure, oh, that's for SAS, that's different. So for locations, there we go. Location right, for the custom values, can do post, put, and delete. So I can, with this scope, allows me to do put, post, and delete, and then the read only allows me to just retrieve the information or get the information. And sometimes if you're testing this out and you're like wondering why isn't it working, just make sure that the scopes have access to the endpoint, to the methods, and that can cause an issue. Hey, I've seen this error message on Slack so many times, and the errors are really direct. They're telling you, hey, you don't have permission to perform this. Now I'm paraphrasing, but essentially it's like, hey, it says in clear, plain language that you do not have permission to access this location or to perform this action. And that's just because your app does not have those scopes available. And to get them, it's simply just add them in the app. Then before you can access them, you need to update the tokens, right? And here, let's see, oh, that's right. Then in the Node-RED flow, and particularly this node called credential, here the scopes might not be included in here. Or you've included the scopes here in your Node-RED application, but then you don't have access to them. You've not done the necessary addition by adding the scopes in the GoHighLevel app that you create in the marketplace, which is, yeah. And then, yeah, so if I go into my market, this is the one that I'm using for like testing stuff out. And yeah, you have to add these scopes here, and then adding your redirect URL. It might seem complicated, at least it did to me when I was beginning to learn. But once it works, it clicks, and then it's just easy. Now, when I say it's easy, it doesn't mean if I were to do this in Python or just a different programming language or using a different platform, you're going to encounter issues unless you know that platform in and out. You've used it so many times to build these that you have to debug. You have to understand, okay, why isn't it working? I know it should be, but why? And there's some piece that's missing, and it's all just being persistent and looking at the error message. I love error messages just because they are a guide to solution. And when you change or when the error message changed, that is a success because you fixed the old issue that was occurring, and now you have to fix the new issue. And eventually, through practice, you begin to understand how these systems are built and how they work. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I I also had these flows built on the Zeno platform, but like I said, you can use any. There's so many platforms now these days. I guess this would be considered low code, but the best solution, in my opinion, is using a full-fledged programming language. And my favorite is Python. That is my next step, is to build this using Python. To do the same thing, I'm gonna try to do it. It's gonna give me some errors for sure. I expect that. And people who don't understand that errors happen just have never programmed, or they are extremely rare geniuses. But so when you encounter errors, think of them as thank yous that the system, if it's errors for the database, if it's errors for the connection to GoHighLevel's API endpoints, like they're trying to help you to access their services in a secure manner. Love the errors, as they will be the error messages, as they will be your friend to fixing and making what you want to have work. Have a good day. Thank you. Do let me know if you have any questions. Reach out to me. I hang out at, this is a weird thing to say, but I hang out at GoHighLevel's Slack channel. So there are some really nice people on there that are very helpful, and every one of us tries to assist as much as we can and just pass it on, and we're all here to help our business accounts and for those businesses to use GoHighLevel to help their customers, clients. And you can find that channel on GoHighLevel Developers.GoHighLevel.com and click on community. And if I had my Slack channel open, it would just log me in there, but if you're not, just sign up and then you'll be a part of a wonderful growing communities of GoHighLevel developers who use the API to make things automated. And sorry if this was too winded. Have a good day. Bye-bye.